Warning, this episode is not for children. Please put the children away. Yes, it feels good. Yes, it feels amazing. It feels so good. Whew. Okay. But it feels so good because there is something so beautiful that can come on the other end of it all. This is Charae B Chicago Podcast, and I am your host, Charae. As humans, there are many layers to us, and life has a way of adding to those layers. Here we talk about the basics, our roots. What are your roots, and your reason for what you do and why you do what you do? Is it your family, your birthland, or perhaps your faith? Whatever it is, let's talk about it. And remember to stay rooted. What's up? It's your girl, Charae, here on the Charae B Chicago Podcast, here with another episode. In this episode, I'm going to talk about something that I think a lot of us can relate to. A lot of us, we are so committed to doing this one particular thing. And if you are listening and you are around children and you have it out loud, I would suggest you put the kiddies away, all right? Put the kiddies away before we go ahead and get started. I warn you that today I don't know what the Holy Spirit is going to make me say, so, or suggest, because you can choose to go against the Holy Spirit, but whatever they suggest, I'm going to try my very best to listen. You never know. So, we're going to talk about sex. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. That one thing, oh my. Thank you, God, that we have sex, okay? Listen, if there's one thing that everybody on planet Earth can agree, is that sex is fun. It's fun. It feels amazing. It is without a doubt. Listen, okay? I don't care what or who or where you come from. All right? And even if you come from a place of trauma, when you eventually come from, because I want to be aware of all my listeners. If you're coming from a place of trauma, when you get out of that trauma, I can guarantee it's going to, and you're with that person that really is able to connect with you, mind, body, and soul. It is absolutely amazing. Feels so good. Like, you want to thank God for that one, right? Like, God, out of all of the beautiful things you've created sex. Woo. Man. Like all of us, I enjoy sex. The thing, though, about sex is we tend to look at it as just something to do. Why do we? I mean, it's created by God, right? And I think a lot of things that we can agree on, anything created by God is holy. It is beautiful. And as we go through life and we start to explore what our body is, what our bodies can do, what it is created to do, and we get introduced to sex, there's a level of responsibility that I think we tend to neglect. And I know for the church, that level of responsibility is kind of pushed in a way of saying that it's not beautiful, like it can't be beautiful. I know some churches don't bring the beauty within their creation of sex. And that can cause a lot of people to want to run away from the church, or may want to find sex on their own and figure out why they make it seem so bad. But it's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And then you have some areas, some churches that talk about it in a beautiful way, where they make sure to let you know that it has to be done within the covenant of him and his covenant, the way that he created us to have sex. I just wanted to break it down real quick because I didn't explain what God's covenant is, and that's marriage. Now, I know a lot of people may not agree with the legalization of marriage in America. However, God still created marriage. When he created Adam and Eve, they were immediately married. They were never introduced as boyfriend and girlfriend. It was always introduced as husband and wife. So under God's covenant, you are to be husband and wife. Now, we are to obey the law of the land. That is also in the Bible. So since we are to obey the law of the land legalized marriage. Therefore, God ordains it that way. So we get married, and he is our covenant over our marriage. That's just how it goes. Now, we can still get upset, get frustrated at how the legal system does what they do. They are definitely not fair to men. At one point, they were more fairly to men and not fair to women, and then the tables have turned. So we can still get upset of that. And however, there are certain laws that can help protect men, so you can look into that. However, when I say God's covenant, I'm saying marriage, and I'm saying it in the way that he designed it for us to follow the law of the land. All right? Okay, you guys, let's get into it. And then you have people who understand that sex is beautiful, sex is powerful, and sex is an amazing thing. However, doing it within God's covenant seems to be something that they just tend to walk away from. Like, we have this sexual liberation in the world. Everybody can have sex. Anybody can have sex. And it's true. We have the ability to have sex. Anybody can have sex. And some people even, unfortunately, have sex with people who should not be having sex, introducing them to sex too early. Like, with this mentality of just sexual liberation and sexual freedom, I wonder how many of us are willing to really understand the responsibility behind it. Because there is definitely a responsibility. Because sex is not just a connection between two people. And I'm going to say two, even though there are people out there willing to say they can add more people in there. I'm going to say two, okay? The connection between two people is wonderful. It's great. It's beautiful. And that connection does more than just create a beautiful experience. First of all, the experience, if done right, doesn't even last long, okay? Let's be real. Like, it doesn't last that long if it's done right. If it's done in a way where you guys are truly enjoying each other, okay? All right. I mean, you can have rounds, but each round is not that long, all right? But the notion as if it's something to just do and have fun, that is not, look, listen, this very thing creates life. That means the moments that you should have been responsible in the beginning can create someone that both of you are gonna have to be responsible for. Like, can we be all the way honest? Like, for real. Like, it's okay to enjoy the moment, but I think God created it to be in his covenant because of what it is and what it is created for. It is beautiful and it feels good. And God made it that way so we can be fruitful and multiply. Because can you imagine if it didn't feel good? That'd be the end of creation already. We ain't even gonna be able to get started. If it didn't feel good, like, okay, you wouldn't want to do it again. You'd be like, wait a minute, wait, stop, whoa. There will be no more babies, okay? But since it is beautiful and powerful, because once you do it, you're going to want to do it again, all right? And it creates life, we have to bring responsibility to it. It is such a responsibility. And as a woman, I feel that there has to be more responsibility on us. Why? Because once those moments is created to create that other being, the role of the man, if he chooses, it is over. We are now responsible for a life that we are carrying. That means what we do, how we take care of ourselves, what we drink, what we eat, how we move, how we feel. It's all being affected by this one being or multiple. Shout out to all the twins and triplets and so forth. They're feeling it. They're receiving it. And it is our responsibility to take care of them while they're here before they even come out of us. We're responsible, which means before I even have a child, I should be responsible with choosing who the father is. Now, I'm going to stop right here and insert a little bit. I know I haven't done this in a while, but I do feel a very strong need to go ahead and break this down because I am talking about children in this instance, which is very important. It's highly important. But I also want to highlight the people who may not be able to have children, or the people who may have had their children already and now at an age where they no longer can bear children. So I want to express this as well. It is still a responsibility because there are other things that come along with this. See, God created sex for multiple reasons. It's also created for two people to bond. This is, even if you look up the scientific point of it all, it expresses that you give off certain things like dopamines or certain stuff, right? I don't know all the words, y'all. I'm not a scientist, but there's things that you give off when you're having sex. Not to mention the sexual diseases that you can receive from this. Like, come on now. There are outside of God, okay, that you are responsible for. You are responsible for taking care of your body. There's diseases out there. You're responsible for how you carry on the things that you bring with you and how you interact with other people. That is God's child that you are sleeping with. Okay? That's God's child. So you need to have a responsible interaction with God's child, no matter whether or not you're thinking of children. Now, children are the result of people's love. They're not people's love. Now, people's love should be under God's covenant. And he created it that way because he is the one that's going to protect that relationship. So even if it does not come from, or there's no result as in children as being a result of you two's connection, there is still a responsibility for each other. Because wouldn't you want to have an interaction with God's child under him? That is a responsibility within itself. You are sharing your body with God's child, and you are God's child. Don't you want to make sure you're responsible with your body and not just loose with your body? Just sharing fluids with anybody? Come on now. God created something very beautiful, so let's be responsible with it. enjoying the content? Well, we really appreciate you being here. Your viewership matters to us. That's why we ask for you to like the video if this show has brought you any joy, excitement, and/or inspiration. And if you really would like to help and bear witness to the growth of the channel, subscribe. We really love your engagement. It helps us to stay motivated, knowing that you are getting what you need from us, makes us eager to offer you more, while we have faith that there will be. Like, that's my job. I know that my body, and this is beyond finding out what may be going on with your body, because sometimes trying to have children, you find out things about your body. So I want to be acknowledgeable of people who may be having issues. But before you even find out, or before you even know anything, you know one thing for sure. You are a woman, and your body was created to bring another body. That means whomever you choose to share your body with could potentially help you bring forth another body that both of you will be responsible for. Whether he chooses to stay or not, that is something that you should go in automatically understanding that both of you are responsible for someone else. And while you are vulnerable, because there's nobody's more vulnerable than a pregnant woman and a child. While you are extremely vulnerable, being pregnant, he is to be responsible for you. So are we going to choose someone to be responsible for us irresponsibly? Now, I know there are women who believe in abortion. I think that the thought of abortion wouldn't even cross your mind if you were already in the covenant and the space of being with someone that you will want to have a child with. Now, I know some couples are like, but we're not ready. We're not ready. Well, when God says you're ready, I'm just saying, when he says you're ready, what you gonna do then? And it's difficult for us to grasp the mentality of it because we are, and I'm not saying as if I'm not, look, let me be very, very clear as you are listening and thinking that I'm passing judgment, okay? There's no judgment here. I am simply saying that we as women, and I made sure I said we as women are responsible for this. I have definitely been reckless with my body. I have definitely had sex with people I should never have had sex with. I have given away something that is beautifully created by God himself to someone who could not appreciate the thing that God created because I didn't even know how to appreciate it. How could I ask somebody else to be responsible or appreciate what God has created when I can't even do it? I can't even appreciate what I got. I have the ability to bring somebody else in this world. I am the channel between God and this earth. What? And I'm going to be frivolous with this? Just carefree? Sexual liberation? For what? Because it feels good? 5 minutes? 8 minutes? However long? Is not worth tarnishing or being irresponsible with something that is God sent. That is a God sent thing. We do not have the ability to bring forth a soul. Yet we carry the body, but the spirit is God's. That is not my child. That is God's child. And I am the channel of it all. I am only responsible for holding this spirit. I am only responsible for carrying this spirit, for raising this spirit. Because once this spirit becomes an adult, they are left to the world, and the world is dangerous. So before my child even gets here, I should be responsible with myself first, because I have to understand exactly who I am. I am created to bring forth children, to bring forth more people in this world. Therefore, the person that I lay with, I need to be mindful of who he is and what he understands and what he represents. What kind of man am I laying with? Does he understand the responsibility of who I am? Does he understand the responsibility of God's covenant? Does he know? That's a question I should ask. That's a question I should wonder. But you can't ask that question unless you ask that question to yourself first. Your breasts were made to feed someone else. Your hips were made to carry someone else. You were not just created to have sex. Yes, someone enters, but someone else comes out. I was reckless and not responsible with whom I allowed to come in. So the responsibility of who is to come out, I was being reckless. Now, I have never been blessed with being pregnant. That is a blessing, okay? If God brings forth the Spirit to be within you, that is a blessing. He's given you a responsibility of taking care of his child. That is a blessing. Same to the men. That is a blessing. That your seed was planted for someone else to carry it. Listen, as a man, do you really want to lay with somebody who is responsible for your flesh and blood, where they could do anything they want to do because they are the holder of your child? I know a man who, once he found out his lady got pregnant, he went and found him a job. He was like, I'm about to take care of me and mine. And she up and got an abortion without telling him. When he found out, he was devastated. But did he make sure he was laying with someone who understood the responsibility? And he was a Christian man. He went to church on Sundays. But he wasn't laying with someone under God's covenant. She didn't understand the responsibility or the blessing of what she received. And he didn't understand or wasn't responsible with who he was carrying or giving his seed to. Just because you say you're a follower of Christ doesn't mean you are all holy. We all make mistakes. We are all sinners. Now, as Christians, we are supposed to be the example. Therefore, I need to make sure I check myself first and walk as a light. So my responsibility of understanding who I am as God's child, to bring forth more of God's children, I need to make sure I understand that connection and that responsibility and not take sex so lightly. Because yes, it feels good. Yes, it feels amazing. It feels so good. Whew. Okay. But it feels so good because there is something so beautiful that can come on the other end of it all. How wonderful is that? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that amazing? Ooh. Ooh-wee. Ooh, that feels so good. Just the thought of it. I only want to make sure that I express exactly who I am. That I express exactly what every woman is. And make sure that I express the responsibility of it on not just me as a woman, but as a man. If you are to be the head, the leader of your house, that means you have to be the head and leader of yourself first. Before you lead any woman, are you leading yourself first under God? Are you leading yourself in a position where you understand the responsibility of everything that you plant seeds in? You're responsible for it. And as a woman, I am responsible for everything that I carry, everything that I take on. Because I will take on a child from taking on another man's seed. We have to be mindful of this beautiful thing that God created. so we can be responsible for God's creations. And we have to teach, and we have to learn, and we have to understand what this thing is. Just be mindful. Be mindful, because it's real out here. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for a Bible verse. And today's Bible verse is brought to you by 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18. Flee sexual immorality. Every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he who commits sexual immorality sins against his own body. Are you out there sinning against your own body, the one that God gave you, the one that God said you are responsible for because he gave it to you, and it's yours, it's your own? Are you sinning against it? Now we are created in God's image. Therefore, that means we are created to be like him. So are you being like God with your body? Or are you sinning against it? Just food for thought. Be mindful and stay blessed. Enjoy tuning in to the Charae B Chicago Podcast? Well, be sure to share us with your friends through any of our other platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts. We appreciate your time. Stay blessed.